All right, looping is a little bit different than the what we've been doing so far because before our programs always started and then ran and then stopped. Well, when we do looping, we allow our user to be able to stop the program or tell us when it's time to stop the program, and that'll just keep on running. So when we're creating our flowchart, so let's just say what the scenario is. We have a ride, and the person who is in charge of the ride is the one who sets the price. So he says, okay, for you it's $1, for another person it's $10, for another person it's $12, whatever he wants. Kind of strange, but that's the way this ride works. We don't know how many people will be riding the ride, so we have to make our program so that it will take in how much each person is riding, and then they want to know at the end how much money have we collected and what was the average fare that we charged. So the first thing we have to do is we have to get the loop started. So there's 3 important parts to the loop, and that is, how do we get into the loop? How do we get out of the loop? And how do we know we're out of the loop? All right, so first let's take a look at the loop structure. That is going to be a while loop. Okay, there's 2 kinds of loops. There's a for loop and a while loop. For loop we'll be doing in the next chapter. This is a while loop. So I'll add that to my page. And then I'll go ahead and open it up to see what's inside. And you can see there's a condition there. So the while loop acts a little bit like an if statement. If it's true, that's what the true is, it goes into the loop. If it's false, it steps out of the loop. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, as long as a place in memory, which is called keep writing, equals yes, so as long as they keep saying, yes, I want to keep writing, then we're going to go ahead and keep going around the loop. Notice there's a pre-test and a post-test here. In this class, we only do pre-test, which is really what most people do with a while loop anyway. Just so you know, with the post-test says that we're going to go through the loop one time first and then test to stay in it. Here, we test at the very beginning, so we may not ever get in at all. This is the kind of while loop that you'll see mostly. So that's why we're not even going to mess with the other one. The problem is if I run this, it won't go into the loop because that's not true. In fact, if I run it, there it goes. It just ran. Did we know it ran? No, we didn't. And that's because there's 3 parts to it. That is, how do we get in? How do we get out? And how do we know we're out? So let's go ahead and put a how do we know we're out? And that simply is an output. And that output is just going to say done looping. Students hate putting this down there, but it really will save you so much time, because just like that one, you hit play and then nothing happened. Students assume it's something that they did wrong and they go spending hours and hours debugging. But if they had this at the end, as soon as we hit play, we would know what the problem was. Because it comes up and says done looping, which means it never went into the loop. It just fell out. So that means that that's my problem. So always have how do we know we're out of the loop, which is a done looping output. How do we get into it? Well, this has to be true. Right now, keep writing has nothing in it because we haven't put anything in it yet. So we have 2 choices. We can put an input here or we can put an assignment here. An input requires the user to say, yes, I want to start. And that would irritate them because they wouldn't have started our program in the first place if they didn't want to do the ride. So instead, we're going to be using an assignment. This is called initializing the loop, and that is making a true statement so that it will step into the loop. So keep writing equals yes. That's what we have to put here. It has to be exactly the same. Keep writing, and I'm going to assign to that place in memory yes. So now yes is going into keep writing, and then it's going to see is yes in keep writing. And of course it is because I just put it there, which means we'll be in the loop. So let's go ahead and put an output in here also to see if we're in the loop. So we're going to just put in here, we are looping, because we're all excited about the fact that we're looping. All right, so I go ahead and hit the play button now. We are looping, so we're successfully now entered the loop because this output, not that output, has shown up. and then it comes up again, and then it comes up again. This is what we call an infinite loop, because we have no way of escaping it. It just keeps on going around. Fortunately, because visual logic allows us to hit the stop button, we can get out of the loop very simply just by terminating our program. In HTML-Kit, not so lucky. Yes, you have to shut down HTML-Kit if you lock yourself in a loop, so you want to be careful. All right, so the next thing is, now that we've gotten in, how do we get out? So we have to be able to change the yes and keep writing to no, and the only way to do that is to have the user either type yes or no in. So that means I'm going to put here an input, and that input again has to have the same place in memory. And this is something to remember, because one of the problems that students have, particularly online students, is they'll call this keep writing, and this will call this done writing or something, and call it something different, and then the loop will never stop. So you have to have 3 keep writings. You have to have a assignment to put the yes in, and then the test to see if it's in, and then an input at the end here, and then ask them a question that they'll have to say yes if they want to stay in. Keep writing, question mark, yes or no. Okay, so as long as they keep yes, we'll keep on going around. So let's go ahead and run it and see if it works. We are looping. And now it asks if I want to keep writing. When you test, you always test first with yes. We want to see if we can stay in the loop. So I click OK, it comes around, and now we have that another output. And then I click OK, and now I put no in there to see if I can stop the loop. When I click no, I hope to see done looping. Yes, because that shows that it came up here, so that no does not equal yes, and then it's dropped out. All right, before we end this video, let's do one more thing, and let's go ahead and add a counter to see how that works. So they want to know how many people, or we're going to want to keep track of how many people are taking the ride. So we're going to do something called a counter. A counter has this thing, and that is something count equals something count plus 1. We're going to use the same place in memory on both times and just increment it by 1 each time. Since there's only one counter, I'm just going to put counter. But if I had several counters, I might say a boy counter, a bride counter, a car counter, whatever the counter is, or I might call it car count. You have a suffix of count on all your counters. The computer doesn't care, but when a person looks at your code later on and they see car count equals car count plus 1, they know that that is a counter, and you're counting cars. All right, so now we're going to need an output also. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, we have gone around counter times. All right. So you notice I have this in between 2 text strings, so I have to have quotes around this one and quotes around that one. In fact, let me go ahead and save some room. And since we already have a useless output, this we are looping, let's go ahead and use that one because it's of no use. So I'll just add it there. All right, so let's go ahead and run it and see if this is actually counting. No, it's not. All right, so I have an error here. We are looping, and then we have gone around. So see, there's nothing joining these 2 text strings. So let's go back in there. That's what I get for varying the script. All right, so we have to have something in between here. Now I could put a plus symbol in between, but that's kind of silly. What I want to say is this is one big text string. So I'm just going to go ahead and take both those quotes out. So it starts here, it ends here. Then there's the place in memory. Then it starts here and then ends there. All right, now it should work. We are looping. We've gone around 1 time. So I click OK. Ask me yes or no. So I'm going to put in here yes. So we can go around 1 more time. And now what's going to say is here, so the first time I went through, it was 0 equals 0 plus 1. So we're going to assign 1 plus 0 to that. So there's 1 in there. When we go around again and get to this pot, there's 1 in counter. We add 1 to it, and then we put it 2. So 1 plus 1 equals 2. See, and now we have gone around 2 times. See, so that is just simply showing what's inside the counter. If we go around again, there'll be 2 in this one plus 1, and then we'll store 3 in. Let's go ahead and do that and see. So as I say yes, it's going to take the 2 that was in it and replace it with 3 by incrementing it 1 time. Okay, then I click on no, and done looping, and we are done. All right, we will go add more stuff in the next video.